Nice Micro Monday. I guess I'll have to talk about the Vivaldi browser. So recently a lot of people in the Linux content sphere, like podcasts and YouTube videos, have been talking about the Vivaldi browser because one of the editions of Manjaro started packaging Vivaldi as their default web browser. And Vivaldi is not free software, so it's an expected thing to come, some pushback against it. A lot of people are condemning this move. A lot of people are very dissatisfied with this move from the part of the Manjaro developers because, well, let's face it, when you are putting out a operating system, a GNU/Linux operating system, a free software operating system, a lot of people have this expectation that at least your default software should also be free software, and well, Vivaldi is not free software. A lot of people said that it's a closed source. It's not really closed source, but it's proprietary, so proprietary garbage is, I guess, something you can say about the Vivaldi browser. The only people who didn't really talk about Vivaldi and Manjaro in a bad light was the Destination Linux podcast, which incidentally I started to listen to their episode from last week because I heard that they mentioned the Bedrock Linux, which I left a question on their forum about it, and Bedrock Linux was the topic of my last Nice Micro Monday video last week, so check it out if you are interested. So I was listening to the podcast, and after talking about Bedrock Linux, they had this interview with the CEO of Vivaldi, and I was just listening to the interview and just watching the time go by in like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They still haven't addressed the licensing. 30 minutes, they still haven't addressed the licensing. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and suddenly one of the hosts at the end of the interview asked the CEO of Vivaldi, why aren't you open sourcing your browser? So they were praising the company for not using user data to make profit, to treating their Linux software, so they're treating Linux as a platform, as a first-class citizen, so they push out all their new versions on Linux at the same time, like with other operating systems. And only the last question was this kind of related to free software, and well, the answer was, which a lot of the other people, I guess, didn't really care about, is that the CEO said that Vivaldi is about 94-95% free software because it's based on the Chromium browser, etc. It has a Chromium engine, and the only thing that's not licensed under free software license is mostly the UI related stuff, and the UI related stuff is also, the source code is also available because it's like HTML and CSS and things like that, JavaScript. And they admitted that they obfuscate this code a little, but anyone who wants to can access it, and they encourage the community to mod it, but they don't license it under free software or proper open source licenses, which means that you are not allowed to distribute your own modified versions, which is, I guess, the biggest problem for the general Linux community when it comes to proprietary licenses like that, because if all the source code is available for you, you as a person, you can just download any version on your any type of Linux computer. You don't have to have the exact same version of dependencies that what problem you would run into if you only had the binary to download. So you can just build on your own system using your own versions of dependency trees that you have. But if the license does not allow you to redistribute the code in this way, then you as a Linux distribution cannot just package it for your users and cannot build it and distribute it for your users this way. And this is of course a big problem. The CEO talked about why they don't want to license it under free software license, and basically their reason was that if they put it out as a free software, then they are afraid that the company will lose control of this program, of this project. And he already lost Opera because Opera went in a bad direction. And he was the founder and CEO of Opera, and then when Opera went in a direction he didn't like, then he left and he started Vivaldi. And So now he doesn't want to get in the situation when someone makes Vivaldi or pushes Vivaldi out of the competition, out of the market with something that's based on Vivaldi. So that's the surface level reason they gave. Why I don't like it is that because they said that they encourage the community to modify even the proprietary parts of the browser. So encourage them to mod like the visuals, the UI, and they said that they even include modifications in the official version if they like, which is the thing I have a problem with ethically, because if you are not letting the users, do not give the users full freedom, but then you get the input from the users who provided this input for free and put it in your official version, I guess you can force the consent of your users based on your licensing, but I don't find this kind of an ethical approach, like an approach that I would agree with. And I guess the real reason why they don't open source it is because their income is coming from selling links on their start page. So when the first time you start off your browser, the icons like the links that will get there or default bookmarks that you will have in the browser are how that they sell those spaces, and that's how they get money. And they also sell their search bar. So the default search engine is going to be from the highest bidder, I guess. And if they just made this software totally free software, then of course a Linux distribution could just gut all these out and might decrease the revenue of Vivaldi with those changes. So I guess that's the most reason. But in general, so some of the hate against the Manjaro, or not hate, it's not really hate that the Manjaro edition got for including it as the default browser, but it's more like a criticism. I think it's well deserved because, well, for me I don't really care. It doesn't really affect me if Arch Linux packages Vivaldi or not, because Arch Linux doesn't have defaults, so you install whatever you want. But on a distribution which has defaults, I guess if you are not really anti-proprietary software, you can still uninstall and install something else instead. But to new users, I guess new users, I mean, they will have to figure out if they care about free software or not. But if you just want to proselytize free software to one of your friends, then maybe just give them a distribution that has free software in it. Now this Manjaro edition gets crossed out from that list that you can just give to your friends without any hesitation. I guess you can still install it on their computer, and then you can remove Vivaldi for them and install Firefox or some other free software alternative. You can do that. I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think most people think it's the end of the world. I think it's something it's important to bring up. It's important to talk about it because we would like more people to be aware when some distribution makes a change like this. And I guess that happened. But for me, I mean, I don't think Vivaldi is like the worst offender just based on, I mean, if the CEO was being truthful and what he was saying is true, then I guess Vivaldi might be even a good browser because a lot of interesting functionalities. It's not spying on you. I mean, it's source available, so source code you can audit the same way as you could audit a free software browser. So I guess you can check if it's spying on you or not. So I guess it's not really the worst choice, the Manjaro edition. I think it's Manjaro Cinnamon edition, but I'm not 100% sure. So it's not the worst choice they could have done, but it's still something that I personally wouldn't use Vivaldi. I guess, yeah. This is my rant. This is kind of the big nothing burger of this video. I guess I can be a contrarian by not having strong opinions on something. But I think it's like important to talk about, not that big impactful thing on us. It's like, what's the market share of Vivaldi? Very small anyways. Not many people use it anyways. I guess they try. they try anything they can, and if it's true that they give the Linux users a good experience, I guess there are many people who don't really care that much about the free software aspect of Linux, like the people who still play Steam games, like closed source proprietary games on Linux, and people who, I don't know, still dual boot to use Adobe Premiere Pro or something like that. There are many people who don't care about it, so I guess those people won't care about Vivaldi either not being open source. But anyways, we who care, we can still avoid it, so let's do that. Alright, nice Micro Monday. See you next time. Bye bye.